I'm seeing a lot of scary possibilities when it comes to the type of power that the Trump administration seems to be wielding. It's an illegal power grab. I can understand why some people are calling him a dictator. He's getting his agenda done at a rapid pace that makes people uncomfortable. We haven't seen a power grab by a president of the United States in any of our lifetimes. Will he keep this momentum up throughout his presidency? How much more power will he grab? How many departments is he going to replace with singular people, or maybe even just replace with his power via executive orders? Many people are still very concerned that he might push for Project 2025 and not just his Agenda 47. Although his Agenda 47 would still be very concerning to a lot of people, but it's not like Project 2025. I have to say, though, when it comes to DOGE, I think it's rather foolish to have people in their early 20s or even maybe their late teens auditing our country's finances. I mean, perhaps they're really good hackers, but I don't think those are the most important skills for the job. I didn't expect Elon to make those kinds of poor choices in staff. It certainly doesn't scream merit to me. Look, I think we need to do regular audits on the government spending, and we have the technology to do it easier and faster than ever before. So it really should regularly happen. But I think the way this is currently being done is rather careless and could have deep-reaching negative effects on a whole lot of people. It's absolutely necessary for people to understand what these programs mean when they're wanting to get rid of them. And you're simply not going to get that with people who have that little life experience. Call me ageist if you want, but it's valid. And I have high hopes for these efforts, but I think a lot is going to go wrong. And I think it's going to negatively affect a huge swath of people before any corrections get made. And let's be clear, there are countless things that federal money has been going to that are absolutely ridiculous. And there are some programs that had good intentions and might actually have some money divvied out to things that are helpful, but that got mostly turned into money laundering schemes. It's a good thing we're finding a lot of these things. I just wish there was more care put into it. There were protests earlier today in several states. Thankfully, there was virtually no violence, and no vandalism except for the rare spray painting a tag of some sort. There was one incident by a crazy person, there was a stabbing, but I couldn't find any other reports on violence as I continued to look. I couldn't find it in my searches, so this is extremely encouraging. These are the types of protests that I can get behind. Maybe not necessarily the messaging, but just the protests themselves, how they're being handled, what they're doing to get heard. They're not blocking highways, they're not vandalizing anything, and they're not being violent. Though I do have to wonder what good these protests will actually do. Calling Trump and Elon Nazis is only so helpful, and that's the messaging of a large percentage of these protests. A big difference between Trump's deportation efforts of illegal immigrants and Hitler's deportation efforts is that Trump just wants illegal immigrants out of the country as fast as possible, while Hitler wanted to put people in death camps. He didn't care that whether people were there legally or illegally. He had a whole nother set of things that he would judge people on and put them in concentration camps based off of those things. The concentration camps weren't about illegal immigrants. They were about removing people from society that they don't like. I'm not seeing that happening with Trump. I have to say, I don't understand how wanting to reduce the size of government and getting rid of bureaucracy is considered something fascist. I never knew those things were considered bad. I mean, Obama during his presidency, as well as Bill Clinton during his presidency, talked about getting rid of government waste quite a bit, though they rarely went through with much of it, so maybe that's the whole thing. Oh, you can talk about reducing waste, but don't actually do it, right? Trump appears to care about upholding this country's standards, rules, values, and customs. He doesn't seem to care about race, sexual orientation, or gender. Having said that, I don't think Trump is actually very good at recognizing merit. Nepotism drives far too many of his choices. He puts people in positions they have no experience in. He cares more about loyalty than anything else, and that's rather concerning. Loyalty is not a replacement for merit. I do sometimes wonder if I might be on the wrong side of things by being this open about, saying, hey, maybe he's not that bad. Maybe I'm too optimistic, too forgiving, too naive. Too trusting, and too much of a both sides kind of person. I'll have to admit that I sometimes get a little enjoyment out of watching people freak out over the Trump administration. And yeah, that's rather mean-spirited of me. It's mentally punching down to a degree. But some people are just completely unhinged. There's no reaching them. What I hope the most as a result of this Trump presidency is that the left finally figures out where they went wrong instead of just blaming it on things that end in Easterphobic. I want the left to focus on actual class issues, universal health care, safety nets, the homeless, a living wage, stopping crime, the important things. But I have a feeling they're just going to continue making the same woke mistakes and then wondering how they got there. Just saying.